Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and I'm joined as always with my co-host, Darian Smith. And Darian, you ready to talk some basketball tonight?
Yeah, let's get it, man. Let's get to the basketball side of things here, man.
Yes, our UAB Blazers coming in 7-1. Big game this Saturday night up in Morgantown against the West
Huge.
Virginia Mountaineers. It is huge. You are correct. This is like the premier non-conference game for UAB this year. And buddy, if they can somehow find a way to get a win in Morgantown, this is going to, I mean, that would be a huge plus in trying to get an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament come March. But before we get started, guys, if you are listening right now and you are not subscribed to the Blazer Victory Podcast, go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button, whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Podbean, wherever. Hit that follow or subscribe button so you do not miss any future episodes. So, Darren, let's just kind of talk about UAB's season so far. So, as I just mentioned, 7-1 currently heading into Morgantown this Saturday. Only
Mm-hmm.
one loss coming in the Barstool Sports Invitational to Toledo. That's really not looking like a good loss like we thought about a few weeks ago. But hey, just one loss. Let's just talk about it. So me and you were both able to go to the South Alabama game this past Sunday. A really
Mm-hmm.
decent crowd. And
Good
we were
energy.
good energy, yes. And what we were talking about, like it seems that they're, UAB is slowly kind of putting it together. Like, yeah, there's still some things they need to work on, but we could honestly tell an improvement from the South Alabama game, versus the first game that we saw them when they started or when they opened up the season in Bartow against Alabama State. Wouldn't you say so?
Yes. The energy has always been there. I think the PA guy does a good job. The team that's running the atmosphere for the in-game atmosphere, they do a good job with playing music at the right time. The guy does a good job at getting the crowd amped up at the right time. Stand up on your feet. They the crowd, I felt like at the South Alabama game really spurred on runs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, UAB, we can be a team that can bam, bam, bam. It can be a close game, 2-point game, and then bam, bam, bam. You look up, we up 12. Um, that's just the kind of team we are. It can be quick, it can be deadly. I'm not saying it's not like Golden State used to be, because Golden State can put up a couple threes, and the next thing you know, you're like, dang, how are we down like this? But that's kind
Right.
of what we tend to do to you. So the crowd really feeds into it, you know. And we were thinking, it was like, man, it was a nice attendance. I think it was about 3,800 at the South Alabama game. It was
Mm-hmm.
good, but it wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't great. We wanted it to be great. I was just thinking, with the energy in the atmosphere that we have already, I'm like, man, if we pack that thing out, just do it one time, I think it'll be an experience that people haven't felt in a long time. And when you get used to feeling that feeling of something special, you in there, and that energy is
Mm-hmm.
contagious. It'll continue to happen. But I'm proud of the fact that it seems like we're slowly getting there, and that the energy is there, the atmosphere is there. Now it's adding more bodies, because
Yes.
if we get all the bodies in the seat, man, it's going to be one of the best, most difficult atmospheres to play at in the group of five. I say in basketball, period. So let's continue building. I'm proud of where we at. I'm proud of how the team has grown on the court as well.
Yes, and real quick, just in regards to the crowd, a great opportunity next Wednesday, December the 14th, as South Carolina comes to Bartow Arena at 6 o'clock. So I definitely expect that to be a really good atmosphere and have a larger crowd too. Even though South Carolina is really not a great team, but it's a brand name. It's a SEC team, so that should bring a pretty good crowd in Bartow Arena next Wednesday. But before that, hey, we've got to take care of business this Saturday night in Morgantown. And you just mentioned the team. Early on, those first few games, UAB handled business other than Toledo, but it seems that of late, the last, especially the Jacksonville game and the South Alabama game in stretches, it seems that UAB as a team is starting to kind of come together more. It seems like the guys are really starting to gel better. Andy Kennedy, king of the transfer portal. We all know that. I don't care how talented you are. It's going to take some time to, learn to play together, learn to develop relationship on the court, a court relationship with each other. And if they can put it all together this Saturday, I really think UAB has a shot at knocking off West Virginia. And as we mentioned off of the top of the show, like that would be huge for UAB's resume heading into March if they can handle business.
Right. As far as in the first half of that, as far as the team and our growth and what I've seen, I think we've really settled down into finding an identity.
Yes.
On who we are. I think Eric Gaines offensively has done a great job of learning where to pick his spots. I know early in the season he was really pressing, and he would put up some mid-range shots. He would kind of drive wild to the rim, but I think they've worked on the angles of pick and rolls, and they get him downhill. And even if you look at the box score a lot, even if you don't see that he scored or his field goal percentage was low, a lot of times he's getting to the rack, and they're committing so much resources to stop him that there's Javian Davis there for offensive rebound because you got the big sliding over, trying to stop him, and they're going all out because he's so explosive. I think he's really found his way offensively and how he gets into the lane. And, I think Tavin Lovin kind of does the same thing, but he does it more with power. Tavin Lovin he's about 6'4", but he's strong, where Eric Gaines is like really explosive and quick. But they both get in the lane well. I don't even have to mention Jelly because everybody knows how Jelly get down. He has an arsenal of skills. I mean, he has the automatic green light. He makes good decisions. His handle is really tight. I think Jelly can be a first round. I think Jelly can be a good scorer off the bench in the NBA, but that's another story. I think Trey Jemison does a good job of getting into space and finding himself open. He has good hands for dump offs, and he can finish well, big and strong. And I just really think a lot of people have found their place. Now, I still wonder like where does Tony fit in? It's a couple bench pieces. Like KJ Buffin has really found his place as a versatile do-it-all. Ty Brewer off the bench has really found his spot. He's a mid-range guy. He has a really sweet stroke. He can get in there and battle for some rebounds. He's a tweener, big. Who else we got? I think a lot of the guys have really found their spot. I just think we probably have a couple guys off the bench that can probably use a little help in finding where they at. But we have really gelled, especially defensively.
Yes.
Defensively, I saw the guys talking so much. I remember that first game we went, I'm like, man, why is it's like so much confusion? Especially when guys was driving, and Toledo caught us when we didn't know our identity defensively. And if you go back and look at that game, those guys were just driving to the hole. And whether it was pick and roll, it was simple defensive coverages that we kind of didn't know what coverage we wanted to do. We didn't know if we wanted to switch. We didn't know if we wanted to, play drop coverage and have the big sit back. Like, it was just a lot of confusion. And those guys were just able to kind of just finish at the rim. And on the other end, we were missing layups. Like, Toledo really if they was to catch us now, I truly believe we beat them by double digits.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, like that was just they caught us at the right time when we were trying to gel. We had a couple new guys. We was trying to figure out everything. And watching this South Alabama game, man, I saw defensively like we are so much tighter defensively and how we secure rebounds. And I'm just like, okay, I physically see it. The only thing South Alabama had these weird guards that played like post players.
Number 2 and number 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird because it like I know like number 4 was not a tall guy, but he was like a 6'3", but he looked like he was about 220. And he posted up like an old school power forward, and most of the time jelly or something to be on him, and he just did like a little hook shot. And number 2 would do the same thing. It was like this little turnaround baby. It was like frustrating. I was like, what is this, man? Like, but it was effective. I haven't really seen anyone play like that. But that's how they got most of their points. It was a really weird. It was just really weird, and they were but it worked. And even when we went on a run, they were able to kind of like we played well. Like we played really well. I thought we were going to 20-piece them, but they was able to kind of make the score look better down the stretch. They made a little run down the stretch to get it to single digits again. But yeah, I know people probably look at that score and be like, well, South Alabama was up there with y'all. Well, South Alabama had these tricky guards that would like to post up and act like they were Hakeem Olajuwon. And it would work because it was like the quick little baby hook, and you couldn't really block it. It was just weird, but it worked, and but not good enough, and we was able to secure the dub.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like they would just find their spots on the court, and those 2 guys for South Alabama were just so comfortable that they would make nearly all the times they attempted shots from those spots. But honestly, too, Darian, I don't think South Alabama is that bad of a team. I think they'll end up being a pretty good team in the Sun Belt. I think they just had a couple of bad losses, and that kind of hurts their ranking in KenPom and net ranking. But I don't. At the end of the year, I think we'll look back and look at that South Alabama game and realize that, hey, South Alabama wasn't that bad of a team. That was a good win for UAB. But let's just talk a little bit about the importance of this game in Morgantown against West Virginia. And before we do that, in a few minutes, we'll roll our interview that we had with Jared MacDonald, who now covers West Virginia for HD Media. Jared, we had him on earlier in football season. He was working for the Bowling Green Daily News covering Western Kentucky. He is now covering West Virginia for HD Media. So we'll roll that interview in a few minutes. But Darian, this game for a mid-major like UAB, and everybody seems to say Conference USA is a one-bid league this year. Hey, I really do think there's a shot at getting a couple in. If you want to get an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament, what a statement this would be Saturday night if UAB is able to get the win. It's not a must-win, Darian, but this is a great opportunity for Andy Kennedy and UAB to kind of just up that resume, man. Give it that gold star and go into Morgantown and beat West Virginia. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, because especially with it being on the road in Morgantown, that speaks a lot, saying that we can go on the road and get a big one from a really good team.
Hey, it's a quad one opportunity.
Right, exactly. Now, I know we talked about it in football, how we wanted to start winning those games and really claiming the stake and making statements. And I really want us to do that in basketball. Like, I feel like we have the talent. I feel like we have the coaching staff to do that. We can do something special this year, and we can get Bartow back to being packed out. I think with West Virginia, this is going to be a clash of styles. I think the thing that'll worry me for each team, I think UAB does well defensively when there's nothing dynamic on the other team that can just kind of get off on you and start from there. So what I'm saying is like South Alabama example had number 2 and number 4. They had something that was hard for us to stop, and then they kind of went off of that. They had good shooters, and once we tried to come down to help, you had guys in the corner that could stroke it. The thing that I would worry if I was Bob Huggins for West Virginia, the thing that would worry me is like they really don't have a guy to really break you down, like a dynamic guy. Now they have good players. They have like Stevenson is a good shooter. Mitchell is tall. rangy forward from Texas, probably about 6'9", 6'10". They got a lot of those type of guys. That's really good for their defense, but I'll get to that. But on offense, he's skilled. He can hit. He's not strong with the ball though, but he can. It's going to be a good matchup because I'm thinking that KJ Buffin is going to be on Mitchell. He's not going to be able to overpower KJ. He is good. He has a couple of moves he does in the post. They try to get him the ball, and he has a baby hook. He's tall. He's rangy. He's crafty. And then they have Matthews, I believe. He's an athlete. Like he can get up, like kind of how Gaines is. But he's more so with his size. He's tall, another 6'7" guy. They have a lot of those guys,
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like everybody else is kind of like, they have a big man down there. He's 285 pounds. He's a load. He's not explosive. He's just a load. And then they have a point guard that's kind of he just initiates the offense, and he shoots open threes. Then they have Toussaint that come off the bench, who's like that microwave scorer. He can get it going. He's from Brooklyn, New York, I believe. So you know how those guys get down in basketball, and he's a little point guard, and he gets it going. But their identity, what would worry me for UAB is they have those long. They're a team full of forwards. They have point guard, then 6'4" through 6'7" through 6'9" guys, and then a big center. So, and they are very disciplined defensively. And they get in you, and this is their calling card. You don't have to have a dynamic guy on offense when it's hard for you to score, and they can get in the passing lanes, they can block shots, they secure rebounds. So it's going to be interesting to see the clash of styles.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you look at too, this is, I bring up in the interview with Jared too, that, UAB is a very tempo team. Like UAB loves to get up and down fast, get jelly to, pop shots quickly. Whereas, on the other hand, West Virginia, I mean, they're very, kind of slow and methodical. They love to play great defense, like Darian just mentioned, and they like to take their time and, get off good shots. I know they're not as slow as North Texas is, like UAB has faced before and will face again this year a couple of times. But, I mean, they're very efficient. So it's going to be important to kind of watch in this ball game who's going to dictate the tempo. Who is UAB going to play their style of basketball, or is West Virginia going to slow UAB down and force UAB to kind of, work a lot more half court offense instead of, tempo and fast breaks. But kind of looking at this game, Darian, I think Xavier in West Virginia's last game really did a good job on defense in forcing West Virginia into mistakes and just kind of making them uncomfortable. And UAB is going to need to do that to West Virginia again this Saturday. If you can make West Virginia uncomfortable and throw some bad passes and force them into some turnovers, double-digit turnovers, like 10 to 15, and UAB can be aggressive on the boards and not allow West Virginia to get those offensive rebounds to get second-chance points, then I do think UAB can come out of Morgantown with a win. And so I think those are the keys to the game, to be honest. Like, just dictate your style early on, UAB up and down, quickly as possible. Force West Virginia to speed up things and make them uncomfortable and force them into a lot of turnovers and just dominate on the boards. And I know that it's hard to do when you play a Big 12 team, a Bob Huggins team, at West Virginia that loves to crash the boards. But let's face it, man, we've got some dudes inside. Trey Jemison, Davis. I mean, we've KJ, but we've got some guys down low that can get after the ball. It's just, are they going to come in with that aggressive mindset and try to do that, or are they going to get kind of swayed away by seeing how big West Virginia is?
Yeah, I think West Virginia really has one big guy in that center. That down there, I believe his name is Bell. He's a big guy, but he's not explosive, like I said. But now the athlete Stevenson at the 2 is a good athlete. He's about 6'4", but at the forward positions, they are very. I feel like Mitchell and Matthews, I believe. I feel like those guys are very rangy, explosive. So the difference is going to be at that 3 position with Ladarius Brewer. or Tavin Loving usually is, they both been playing this year. There's going to be a size discrepancy there. They're going to have a big, long, rangy guy. So if I was UAB, I know you mentioned turnovers. Guess what? A lot of times it's going to come down to discipline because they're very disciplined. They're going to run a lot of plays. They're going to have a slow pace. So they don't give you many opportunities, for turnovers. But if you be disciplined and on your cues, they're not going to just break you down. Mm-hmm. Right? You have to force somebody to go one-on-one. Don't let that play be effective. Switch out. Make somebody make a play. That's what I would do to them. I would make somebody one-on-one make a play. And if they do that, that's cool because they don't really have a go-to guy to make plays. They run plays on offense to get open. That's how you force turnovers for them. You force them. It's kind of like, how David Reeves played defense for UAB football. It's kind of conservative and sit back and then it's kind of read and react. I think that's how you have to play West Virginia. And I wouldn't be so aggressive against them defensively. I just play my cues and just force tough shots, crash the boards, and run. Mm-hmm. Or force them and make them press. Make them press and try to find they haven't been able to get shots. And I don't think they have a certain matchup for them offensively that they can take advantage of per se. I think that we do. They're a really good defensive team, but I mentioned Bell at center. We have Jelly Walker.
Mm-hmm.
We have Eric Gaines too that can get downhill and do some work there. But what I would do is I would spam pick and roll because they have a big guy. He's good at putting his body on people and rebounding, but he's not a good athlete in space from what I've seen. I heard them when I was watching the game when he played Florida. When West Virginia played for Florida, he was a 300-pound guy, and he got down to 285. He can move for his size, but if you find a way to get the mismatch that I'm gonna be looking for is Jelly Walker. If he's able to get a screen from Trey Jemison, put that guy in distress. Mm-hmm. I would make him make decisions all game. What you gonna do? You gonna come up? How are you gonna play it? Are you gonna try to switch? Because if you try to switch, Jelly, please ISO this man. ISO. Everybody get out the way. Cook him. He's too slow a foot. Okay. Well, are you gonna drop back? If you drop back, Jelly can pull up. That's an easy shot. Are you gonna play up? You gonna play up? All right, Trey Jemison, you roll to the basket, easy dunk.
See, and that's something too, Darren, that I noticing from the Xavier game is that West Virginia struggled heavily on high ball screens. Xavier just killed them with the high ball screens the whole game, especially in the second half. So maybe that's something UAB looks at doing, I mean, I'm sure West Virginia is going to work on it because Bob Huggins did not seem very happy in that post-game presser. But, I mean, maybe that's something UAB can exploit.
Yeah, I believe we can because I think what West Virginia struggles with is dynamic guys. Some guys with some kind of playmaking ability to them. Because they are so disciplined and they play good team defense. And I feel like their team is really meant to stop wing players. But I think with them having that big guy at center, I think, like you said, they ran a lot of high ball screens. That's the reason why you run a lot of high ball screens. I wouldn't run it with KJ Buffin. I would run it with Trey Jemison because I know the big guy is going to be on him. And I would just go to that over and over until they have to get him out the game. Y'all better replace him because we're going to kill him, And honestly, that's all I would do. or maybe I would get Gaines involved in that and get Gaines going downhill against them. And, hey, be an athlete. Make that guy make a play. Put a lot of stress on him until force them to get some bag ups or force them to downsize and then go from there. Because he's an important part of their team. And then I would just be disciplined on defense and don't go for any silly gambles. Don't give them any easy buckets. Because if you make a mistake, they have shooters now. They don't probably have guys that can play make like that, but they have guys that can put the ball in the basket. So I think their problem is just finding a way to put it in the basket, just getting space to do that. Hey, if we can just be disciplined and play solid defense, get Jelly going. I think Jelly would have to have a big game here. I think he has big games, other games, just because he want to, just because he want to. But I think this game, we really would need him in his playmaking, his chops. I'm talking about a 30.9 assist type of game, and I think everybody else will be able to eat off of that.
Definitely. Well, again, Saturday night, 5:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. This game will be televised on ESPN Plus between UAB and West Virginia. Just a couple quick things, Darian. What concerns me is that this is UAB's first true road game. So I know early on, West Virginia might jump up on us just because the team might be a little rattled. I hope not, but I mean, it's just to be expected. That's going to be an intimidating atmosphere in Morgantown. But the other point I wanted to make is that I know last year was a completely different season, with both teams, different teams, but UAB was up on West Virginia at Legacy Arena by 11 points and just let that thing slip away. And the only reason UAB let that game slip away last year was because it just couldn't knock down shots in the second half. I mean, you look at, 4 of 21 from 3-point, 40% total from the field. I mean, you're not going to beat many teams doing that. And that's unfortunately what happened last year in this matchup. But this year, I mean, I just don't see us doing any worse than 4 of 21 from 3. Like, I got to think Jelly's at least going to knock down a few by himself.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to probably knock down more than 4 threes. And then, Ladarius Brewer, Eric Gaines can make a couple threes. KJ Buffett can stroke it. Ty Brewer can make some. Tyler Beatram. Like, we got some guys that can shoot. Butter Johnson back there. So I ain't worried about that at all.
Well, again, guys, hey, this isn't a must win for UAB because, honestly, what it comes down to is conference play and getting in the Conference USA tournament and winning that thing. But hey, if UAB can win this game Saturday, this definitely kind of opens up that door a little bit, actually a lot more, into getting the at-large bid come March if UAB does slip up in the Conference USA tournament. So not a must-win, but hey, man, this thing would be great to win to help our at-large chances and just a big resume boost. And, I know we've got South Carolina next week, UAB does, but this game on the road, a quad one opportunity, I mean, you got to think the guys are excited about getting up there to play.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, all right, guys. Well, without further ado, we'll go ahead and roll our interview that we had with Jared MacDonald, and we'll be back next week to get you guys ready for football and the Bahamas Bowl.
Yes, sir.
But as always, go Blazers.
Go Blazers. Diff game.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast, where we are pleased to be joined again by Jared MacDonald. Jared, welcome back to the Blazer Victory Podcast, man. It's good to have you on for the second time this year.
Thanks, John. I did not expect to be back this early the last time we talked, that's for sure.
Yes, for those that don't know, Jared is with the HD Media, covering West Virginia sports now. And, HD Media owns Herald Dispatch, Charleston Gazette Mail, and a bunch of other newspapers. So Jared, moved from Bowling Green, Kentucky over to Morgantown, West Virginia. So first off, congratulations, Jared. And I guess the first question I've got to ask you is, over under 50, how many times have you listened to Country Road Take Me Home?
Oh, actually, you know the Spotify Wrapped that they do at the end of the year?
Oh, yes, the rap. Yes.
Yeah, I don't do Spotify. I'm an Apple Music guy, but they have their own version of it. It's like the top 5 or whatever. That was the number 1 song that I listened to this year.
So you had to listen to it a lot.
Yeah. No, that was a big part of my decision process. I just sat there and listened to some John Denver as I, mulled over whether I was going to leave Bowling Green for West Virginia or not. And the Country Roads took me home, baby.
Yes, well, this is, your second week there, and you're already off to a banging start. West Virginia gets Ren Baker as the new athletic director. West Virginia hoops going on, men's and women's. You've got, it looks like West Virginia's going to keep their football coach, Neil Brown. You've certainly had a lot to write about this last week and a half.
Man, that's for sure. It does help, Ren Baker being a CUSA guy coming from North Texas. So I was very familiar with some of the things that he was able to do there. Talked to Brett Vito a little bit down with the Denton Record Chronicle. Talked to Todd Stewart from Western Kentucky. He kind of gave me, a heads up that he's a great guy to work with. And, it's going to be, an easier transition because of that and stuff like that. So I'm kind of glad that it's just out of the way at this point. I think it all broke on day 3 on the job for me. So it was pretty hectic on the early going. But, now it's just powering through and moving forward with the normal stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, with transitioning in your real life, in your career, how has that been? Like, just with so much going on in your career at the same time as so much going on in your real life.
Man, I'm so tired right now. It really started back in October. Grant Traylor, he covered Marshall for a long time. He's the one that ended up hiring me, calling me, and telling me about this job. And the job itself was very, intriguing to me. It was almost a no-brainer, but I had never been to Morgantown, West Virginia before. So I was kind of sitting there like, I need to see this place. I need to see this place. Western Kentucky had that Friday night football game against UAB.
We don't want to talk about that game.
Yeah, no, that was the last time I was on the pod, was right before that game.
That's right.
And so after the game, I get done working. It's like 1 or 2 a.m. and I was like, I need to go see this place. So I just take off in the middle of the night, drive 7 hours to Morgantown, get here, 10, 11 a.m. Because I stopped for a little nap at a rest area because I was beat. And I get here and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I could live here. And from there, it's been, back and forth a little bit and busy because I was helping out with the Daily News in Bowling Green for a while too. Just trying to see football season through, at least the regular season. And then I think I finished there on November 20th and then started here on November 21st. So it's been hectic, man.
To say the least. Yeah. Well, Jared, guys, if you are not following Jared on Twitter, definitely give Jared a follow at MacDonald Sport. He has the same handle as he did last time, so make sure you give him a follow if you have not done so already. But, Jared, we've got a basketball game this Saturday night at 5 o'clock in Morgantown as the UAB Blazers will travel up there to take on the Mountaineers. We're currently recording this interview Tuesday evening, so West Virginia will play Navy Wednesday evening, so they'll have another game before. But currently they are 6-2, should be 7-2 heading into the UAB game. But just looking at this West Virginia team, like it looks like a typical Bob Huggins team where they love to play slow paced, make sure to get very efficient shot selection, and just play really good defense. Well, would you say that's the case this year with the games that you've been able to cover so far for West Virginia?
Yeah, I think they like to take a lot of pride in their defense. They're coming off a loss to Xavier on Saturday heading into the Navy game, and they're very disappointed with their defensive effort in that game. They gave up an 84 points in that. That was a season high for them, 48 in the second half. That was also a season high for points and a half for them. And really, it's just, I think, the effort, the buy-in, the want to that they were most disappointed in. Xavier got a lot of, drives straight to the rim, a lot of easy baskets off the pick and roll. Solly Boom is there. UTEP transfer. I don't know how much you watched him, the last couple of years playing in CUSA, but he is there. He's doing very well. It was pretty good to see him in person again. I'd only seen him really at the CUSA tournaments the last couple of years, but I think that's been the biggest focus for them this week leading up into this Navy game and probably against UAB as well. It's just defensively, making it tougher, not having those easy drives to the basket. And then offensively, they've had stretches where they're really good, and then they've had stretches where they're really bad. The turnovers is something that they're trying to clean up. We were talking before we started recording this podcast, actually. The first question I ever asked Bob Huggins was after the Xavier game. He had talked a lot leading up to that game, about needing to take care of the ball and not turn it over as much because Xavier will get out and transition and score a bunch of points, and that's what they did. And, I brought that up, and he cuts me off, and he goes, "We did a great job with that, didn't we?" Then I'm like, how do you clean that up? And he's like, "Get better players." How's that? And then
Bob Huggins.
he paused for quite a while. Nobody says anything, and he's like, I don't know. We work on it. Maybe we'll just all do dribble handoff so we don't actually have to pass it. But that's going to be another big point of emphasis, trying to clean that up. But overall, they've been really solid this year.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to ask, just hitting on the Xavier game, Jared, it really looked like in the first half, especially, West Virginia was in control of that ball game. But I was just planning on asking you kind of what happened in that second half. But it seems that it was just, turnovers and just not making shots, I guess. Would you say that was the case, Jared?
Yeah, turnovers. Xavier did a good job, getting to the basket, making shots. They had a couple of 3-point attempts. I believe it was Boom for both of them, where he was fouled. And West Virginia did lead for about 29 minutes in that game, just shy of that. The first half, they did really well shooting the ball from three. I believe they were 7 for 9 in that game from three in the first half. A couple of those were banked in. I don't know if they called bank on it, so take it for what it is. But and then it just kind of fell apart at the end there. Like I said, they were really disappointed with their effort and their, mental focus during those last 5 to 10 minutes of the game. And I think it's one that they feel they let slip away a little bit.
Yeah, and in watching them play, I see a stark contrast and difference in how UAB plays. West Virginia really doesn't seem to have a dynamic playmaker initiator from what I saw. You have better intel. Do you know who's the guy that I saw Toussaint do some of it off the bench? But in that starting lineup, is it somebody that you give the ball to and they go make a play from the perimeter?
I think it kind of comes in stretches. It's definitely not, in my opinion, like UAB where Jelly Walker's just going to go get you a basket. But Eric Stevenson, can make shots. He's shooting over 47% from three this year. He's got a lot of college basketball experience, had some other stops before this. Trey Mitchell, Texas transfer. He's been very well. Emmett Matthews Jr. has been playing well at times. So it's different players at different times, in my opinion, and it's definitely not like UAB where it's kind of the Jelly Walker show, but also UAB's got a ton of really, really good role players too.
Right, and it does kind of seem that kind of both of these teams, both UAB and West Virginia, are still kind of try to fit all the pieces together, and we know how that's going to be, with both teams utilizing the transfer portal each year. I know Andy Kennedy does that and Bob Huggins does as well. But something that UAB fans might not realize is that UAB actually faced off against Eric Stevenson last year when he was with South Carolina. So UAB does have some experience guarding him. Now, he did go off for, looks like, 15 points in that game at Columbia. But that sort of, you would think that would kind of help UAB, just, being familiar with him from last year. But I definitely agree with Darian. There's not really one person that really pops off on this West Virginia team except for Eric Stevenson. It kind of looks like he's kind of slimmed down a little bit, even from last year, when he was with South Carolina. What does UAB have to do to go into Morgantown and try to pull off the upset? Because, at least recording right now, West Virginia has not lost in Morgantown this year. They're 3-0, probably going to be 4-0 after the Navy game. But, what if you had to pick one thing, what's UAB going to have to do to come out Saturday with the win?
Yeah, like you said, West Virginia's been, very good this year. Their only 2 losses were to Xavier, like we've already talked about, and Purdue, the number 4 team in the country, and who Bob Huggins considers the best team in the country right now. And they had cut that deficit to 4 late in that game before Purdue pulled back ahead. But, these 2 teams played last year as well on December 18th down in Birmingham. The one thing that stands out to me a lot in that box score is 4 of 21 from 3-point range for UAB.
Yikes.
I watched quite a bit of UAB basketball last year, actually. Probably more UAB basketball in my last couple of years than I've seen West Virginia play. So this is kind of a weird situation for me, on this podcast, just because I covered CUSA so much. I do not expect them to go 4 for 21 from 3-point range again. That seems very unlike them, especially with a guy like Jelly Walker, and some of the other guys that we've mentioned before. So I think it'll be better than that. West Virginia also shot very poorly in that game, 2 for 13 from 3-point range, but they shot 27 free throws, only made 17 of those, but UAB only shot 13. So I think it'll be a good game. Bob Huggins said today, actually, that this is probably going to be one of the better teams that West Virginia faces all year. So I expect it to be a very good game, a very competitive game.
Yeah, I really think this is going to be a clash of styles. UAB is kind of showtime. And when we play, we can hit you with runs, and it can come out the blue. And then especially if we get Eric Gaines going in his athleticism and we get out in transition, and then Jelly Walker can pull up in semi-transition, and he can do his thing. Everybody know that. But this West Virginia squad, they seem, if anybody is familiar with the NBA, they seem like a Toronto Raptors type of squad where there's a lot of length. There's a lot of forward, rangy, skinny guys that can hop and block shots, and they just are very disciplined. Would you agree with that's just how Bob Huggins like to play, and that's the identity of this team, to where they just get up in you defensively, and they run plays offensively to get a good shot?
I think if you ask Bob Huggins that question, he would say they're not disciplined enough. And they're not good defensively enough, but they are, a good defensive team. They're a very solid team. The net rankings, the first ones of the season, came out the other day. They're 11th in the net rankings. So that tells you the strength of schedule that they've played, and the results that they've had in that. And I would definitely agree that it's definitely a clash of styles. UAB plays a very fun brand of basketball under Andy Kennedy. I've really enjoyed watching them play. It was much must-watch TV for me in the NCAA tournament after that Conference USA tournament run, to watch them play Houston last year. I know that didn't end the way that you guys were hoping it would, but it's a very fun team to watch in UAB, and I think whoever's style kind of comes out a little bit more, whoever takes better care of the basketball, if West Virginia's disciplined, they don't have some of those turnovers or do some of those things to shoot themselves in the foot. It should be a good day for them. But, overall, I think it should be a very, very competitive game, like I've said before.
And just to kind of back up, that point, in the clash of styles that Darian was bringing up, Jared, you look at Ken Palm and you look at, tempo, where UAB ranked 7th as, a very quick tempo. And you look at West Virginia, Ken Palm's got them at 151st. So, but you look at how efficient they are as well. This is going to be a clash of styles. UAB is going to want to run it up and down the court, get a shot off, get a very good shot off as quickly as possible, where West Virginia, on the other hand, is going to try to slow it down and try to, get a good shot off kind of late in the shot clock, and then just play very sound defense. So I think UAB did a very decent job last year in the matchup at Legacy Arena. It's just, unfortunately, like Jared, you mentioned earlier, just shots weren't falling for UAB, and UAB ended up losing 65-59. So I think if UAB can get West Virginia to kind of pick up the pace and kind of play their game, play UAB's game, then I do like UAB's chances to, pull off the upset, which UAB really needs to try and get that at-large bid come March for the NCAA tournament this year.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't get that, I'd like their chances to win CUSA. I know CUSA's been a very good basketball league, very underrated basketball league. Covering that, Western Kentucky has been good in the past, 4 or 5 years. They're expected to be very good again this year with a lot of the transfers they brought in. And you look at other teams, FAU, they knocked off Florida earlier this year, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
And North Texas is always good. They like to slow it down. Grant McCaslin there is a very good coach, had a lot of success. La Tech has had success, the last few years. I know they lost Kenny Lofton, but that's a really good basketball league, man. Very underrated basketball league.
Definitely. Well, I've just got one more question. So I know you've covered, Rick Stansbury and WKU for years, and, you had a really good relationship with Rick. But I guess how much different, or I guess fun has it been just talking with? I know you haven't talked with Bob a lot, but the little times that you've been able to talk with him, how fun has it been? Just kind of covering a legend in college basketball.
It's definitely different than covering Rick, that's for sure. They're pretty much like polar opposites, but it's really cool. He's a Hall of Famer. Bob Huggins is. He says what he needs to say. I think he knows exactly what he's saying when he's saying it to get the reaction from the people that need the reaction. And he also knows basketball very well. He reminds me a lot of Bill Belichick in the way he talks, the Patriots head coach in the NFL. Back when I was in college, I worked at a TV station in Boston as an intern, and I transcribed a lot of Bill Belichick interviews and press conferences. And the way he talks and the things he says, it doesn't seem like it's very exciting, but it's just the delivery. He actually says a lot, and he gives you, very good answers, in my opinion. And that's kind of like Bob Huggins. He's very knowledgeable about basketball, and I've learned a lot just listening to him already. But going back to Rick, he definitely talks a lot more, and I had a very good relationship with Rick. There was one day last year, I believe, it was the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. He asked me if I was going home. I said no, I was just going to go to work at the office and design the pages and stuff. And he and his wife Mio were both trying to get me to come to their house and at least get a plate and have Thanksgiving with them. And I couldn't because I had to work. And Zach Greenwell, their SID at the time, who had previously worked at the Daily News, kind of backed me up. He's like, "Yeah, I've been there before. You're in the office all day. You're stuck there, whatever." But it's just those kind of things. Rick kind of gets a bad rap outside of the people that know him very well. I think I think just because of recruiting and some of those things, but he's a very genuine person once you get to know him. And I'm a guy that I'm really glad that I got to work with.
That's good. That's a cool story. I like when people get to share the genuine side of people, not the image, the perception sometimes that's put out there. So that's good. It's good to hear that Rick is a good guy like that.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. And it's definitely been weird, going from him, who is very good at talking and, talks a lot, to, Bob Huggins, who's very reserved kind of in the way he presents himself.
Can that be intimidating or off-putting?
Oh, it's intimidating as hell, man. I think I was shaking the first time I asked him a question. That's a Hall of Famer. And I'm just this guy that just came in here and they hand me a mic and I'm just like, all right, let's go.
Hey, it is what it is, baby. Got to go for it.
Yeah, that's for sure. It'll I'll get used to it, I'm sure. And it'll still be cool though. Not many people get to say that they've, had an experience like this.
Yeah, correct.
Definitely. Well, Jared, man, it's been a pleasure as always. We hope that we can have you on again. Hopefully, West Virginia will continue to play UAB in future years to come. But thanks as always, for hopping on the Blazer Victory podcast. Guys, again, if you are not following Jared on Twitter, give him a follow at @MacDonald Sport. Again, congratulations, Jared. You're doing a great job already covering West Virginia sports for HD Media. I know you're going to kill it just like you did at the Bowling Green Daily News. But just thanks again, man, for hopping on.
Hey, man, anytime you guys want to have me on, I'll be happy to hop on. I've got my Blazer Victory podcast hoodie, so I represent.
Oh, yeah.
I saw the pictures when I was taking my final tour of Kentucky. So,
yes, look sharp.
Yeah, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. I'm not even a big podcast guy, so I appreciate you.
Well, we appreciate you. And hey, and guys, also, hey, if you're not listening to Meet the Press Pod, that's MEAT, Meet the Press Pod podcast with Tyler and Jared. They do a great job talking about a lot of different things, especially lately. But they're so entertaining. I listen to every episode, so definitely check them out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to BVP right now. You can catch them. But Darren, you want to close us out, buddy?
Yes, sir. Blazer Nation, let's ride.